Alright, so andito na tayo dun sa part 2 ng discussion natin for PFRS for SME. And this time, ang gagawin ko naman is to differentiate the different accounts and the different treatments of those accounts with regards to the use of full PFRS and the use of PFRS for SME. So, simulan na natin. Most of the concepts included in the PFRS for SME are similar with the concepts provided in the full PFRS. Okay? Bakit? Kasi the PFRS for SME is just a simplification of the full PFRS. The purpose of the PFRS for SME is to disregard those disclosure, those accounting procedures or those accounting policies that is not necessary for decision-making purposes. Okay? Kumbaga, immaterial siya, kumbaga hindi relevant, kaya sinisimplify. Okay? At mapapansin mo dun sa mga, sa differentiation na makikita natin between full PFRS and PFRS for SME, makikita mo talaga na sinimplify yung mga treatment. Okay? Para nga naman hindi mahirapan yung gagawa. And then, sabi ko nga sa inyo, if you are an SME or micro entities, you are still up to use a full PFRS. So, wala namang masama doon kung yun pa rin ang gusto mong gamitin. Okay? Lalo na, if you are forecasting, so meron kang short forecasting, na gagamit ka talaga ng full PFRS at mabibreach mo yung tinatawag nating threshold na magkano nga pag assets? 3 million to 350 million, and for liabilities, it's 3 million to 250 million. So, wag na natin patagalin. Simulan na natin yung mga differences ng treatment between full and SME. First, let's go to the financial statement presentation. Okay, nasabi ko na to nung una na under full PFRS, so sinasabi ng PAS1, okay, you are required to prepare an additional balance sheet o yung tinatawag nating third balance sheet o yung tinatawag nating statement of financial position at the beginning of the earliest comparative period if the following criteria are met. So, yun na nga, nagkaroon ka ng change in accounting policy and then applies retrospectively. And then, meron kang retrospective restatement or meron kang major or material reclassifications that you are required to prepare a third balance sheet. But sabi nga, for simplification purposes, under SME, hindi ka nire-require na mag-present ng third balance sheet. Ang ire-require lang sa'yo if there's an adjustment in the retained earnings, it is the comparative amount, sa ikalawang column, the earliest comparative period lang. But no need to prepare a third column or third balance sheet. Alright, so ano pa? Option not to present the statement of comprehensive income. Okay, under full PFRS, sabi ng PAS1, di ba? If you will be preparing a complete set of financial statements for general purposes, okay, merong dalawang way ng pagpe-prepare ng Statement of Comprehensive Income. Number 1, pwedeng magkasama ang income statement and other comprehensive income, which compose of the total comprehensive income, or pwedeng magkahiwalay. So, meron kang statement of profit or loss, o yung tinatawag na income statement, at saka meron ka ring statement of other comprehensive income. Okay? Ang purpose kasi nun is for understandability. Okay, meron kasing mga businesses na gusto nila pinaghihiwalay yung dalawa kasi gusto nilang malaman alin yung kinita nila talaga from operation. Alright? But for SME, sabi dito, if an entity has no items of other comprehensive income in any of the periods in which financial statements are prepared, it may present only income statement or a present statement of comprehensive income in which the bottom line labeled as profit or loss. So, hindi ka nare-require under SME na mag-prepare ng other comprehensive income lalo na kung wala ka namang ganun. Okay, wala ka namang income or loss from other comprehensive source. Alright? So, number 3, recognition of revenue from contracts with customers. Of course, hindi ko pa ito nadi-discuss kasi i-discuss pa lang natin to after this PFRS for SME. The treatment ng PFRS 15. Okay? So, skip muna natin tong part na to. After nitong PFRS for SME, of course, di naman ako magtatanong ng questions regarding contracts with customers. Okay? Unless na-discuss ko na itong PFRS 15. Okay? So, skip muna natin yung portion na yan. And then, after nitong PFRS for SME, we will go directly dito sa PFRS 15 na to. And then, balikan nyo yung PFRS for SME kung ano yung naging treatment. Okay? Pinagkaiba ng kanyang treatment. Components of other comprehensive income. Okay. Under full PFRS, ito yung sinasabi ko sa inyo nung una na ang 5 components ng other comprehensive income ay yung RAFA. Okay? Medyo na iba na lang yung term ngayon but it is still the same. Okay? So okay, number 1, revaluation surplus. Changes yan ng revaluation surplus ng PPE at saka investment property. Yung A, ang tawag natin nun, actuarial gains or losses, di ba? Saan ba nag-a-arise ang actuarial gains and losses? Yun ay nag-a-arise sa number 3, remeasurement of the net defined benefit liability or net defined benefit asset. So, nag-a-arise pa rin siya sa employee benefits, yung actuarial gains and losses. F stands for foreign operations, di ba? So, yun yung number 4. Gains and losses arising from translating statements of a foreign operations. Okay? And then yung A is available for sale securities. Actually, hindi na ginagamit yung term na available for securities ngayon. Okay? Ang financial instruments kasi under full PFRS ay in-identify na lang sa dalawa. Those financial assets that are measured at fair value or those financial assets that are measured at amortized cost. Okay? So, dalawa na lang yung classification niya. But of course, there are sub-classifications under those two. So, katulad ng fair value, financial assets measured at fair value, dalawa yon. Yung fair value through profit or loss or income statement at saka fair value ng other comprehensive income. Before, ang term doon na ginagamit sa financial assets under fair value through profit or loss ay yung tinatawag nating trading securities. Okay? Ano yung mga trading securities? Kung meron ka daw investment na tinetrade sa stock market at binebenta mo talaga siya. Okay? Under trading. Kaya, any change in fair value would go to income statement. Pero meron ka namang isa na binili mo lang and available for sale lang siya. So, ibig sabihin, kapag kinailangan mo lang ng pera, pwede mong i-trade. Okay? Though, ito ay traded in the stock market at nagbabago ang fair value, ang change ng fair value nito ay hindi muna pwedeng pumunta sa income statement at dadalhin mo muna siya sa other comprehensive income, okay, for unrealized gains and losses. Okay? Tsaka mo lang marirealize yon or tsaka lang siya mag-a-appear sa income statement kapag naibenta mo na. But habang hindi mo pa naiibenta, any change in fair value ay sa other comprehensive muna. Kaya ang tawag sa kanya ngayon ay fair value or financial assets valued at fair value through other comprehensive income. So, yun yung number 2, binago lang. Kasi nga, yung PFRS 19, na sinusupport ang PAS 39, which discusses financial instruments, ito na yung ginagamit nilang term. Okay? So, ganun pa rin yun sa RAFA, yung A, available for sale securities. Binago lang yung pangalan. And then yung H is, yung H stands for hedging. Effective portion of gains and losses of hedging instruments in a cash flow hedge. Hedging is part of derivatives. So, kung babalikan mo yung ating investment topic, yung basic derivatives, naandun yung hedging. Alright. So, paano naman sir pagdating sa PFRS for SME? Okay. Andun pa rin yung 4 except dun sa number 2. Okay? Yung financial assets at fair value through other comprehensive income. Sabi dito, unrealized gains and losses on fair value OCI are not included because fair value OCI classification is not available for SME. Okay? So, hindi daw siya available under SME. Kaya pala, siguro, dun sa presentation ng financial statements, hindi ka na nire-require na mag-present ng other comprehensive income dahil the main components of other comprehensive income is itong number 2, yung financial assets valued at fair value through OCI. Since wala naman nun, wala kang ipe-present. Okay? It support ito doon sa difference ng presentation ng statement of comprehensive income. Right? Next. The option not to present the statement of changes in equity, option to present the statement of income and retained earnings. Of course, under PAS1, if you will be preparing a complete set of financial statements, hindi mo pwedeng pagsamahin ang changes in equity at saka ang statement of comprehensive income or income statement. Okay? Talagang kailangan mo siyang i-present separately. Sabi dito, PAS1 does not include an option to present statement of income and retained earnings. Wala siyang ganong option. Kailangan i-prepare mo siya separately. But for the purpose of SME, binibigyan kanya ng option na pagsamahin na lang. Sabi dito, it allows an entity to omit the statement of changes in equity in lieu thereof, okay, kapalit daw, to present a single statement of income and retained earnings if the only changes to equity during the period ay alin lang. Okay? Yung ibig sabihin, ang nagbago lang yung iyong equity sa pamamagitan lang nitong 4. Very basic, okay? Nagkaroon ka lang ng income or nagkaroon ka ng loss, nagbayad ka ng dividend, nagkaroon ka ng correction of prior period error, at saka change in accounting policy. Hindi kasama doon ang itong nasa baba, 'di ba? Transactions such as issuance ng share, acquisition of treasury shares, and the like. So, ibig sabihin, if meron ka mga transaction na nagkaroon ka ng issuance ng share, nagkaroon ka ng mga acquisition of treasury shares, wag mo nang gamitin or wag mo nang pagsamahin yung statement of income at saka retained earnings kasi magulo. Okay? Paghihiwalayin mo pa rin under PFRS for SME. Kailan mo lang pwedeng pagsamahin? If itong A, B, C, and D lang ang naging transaction. Very basic. So, yun lang ang pwede mong ilagay. Okay? Total naman, under statement of comprehensive income, hindi ka na nag-present ng OCI. Ang pinapresent mo na lang ay normal na income statement o yung tinatawag nating statement of profit or loss. So, pwede mong ilagay sa baba talaga yung statement of retained earnings. At saka yun nga, pagsamahin mo na sila. Okay? For simplification purposes. Alright. Let's go to the non-current assets held for sale. Review lang tayo ng PFRS 5. Okay? Ano nga ba yung mga non-current assets held for sale? These are non-current assets, either investment property or property, plant, and equipment that you decide to sell in a year or less, and there are complete plans at saka may due effort ka na talagang mabebenta mo yung non-current asset na yun. Okay? Para bang ang nagiging treatment sa kanya ay inventory, talagang ibinebenta mo. Although, inventory is under PAS2, non-current asset held for sale is under PFRS 15. So, medyo mahigpit ang qualifications para ikaw ay mag-qualify under PFRS 5. At saka, non-current assets held for sale ay under ng current assets because you are selling this within a year or less. Okay? And then, sabi dito, okay, if the carrying amount will be recovered principally through a sale transaction rather than through continuing use. Yung sabi ko nga sa inyo, naghahanap ka talaga ng buyer at saka may concrete plan at saka ginagastusan mo talaga para makahanap ka ng buyer. Therefore, you are qualified under PFRS 5. And then, sabi dito, property dividends in the form of non-current assets are classified as held for distribution to owners if the assets qualify under the criteria set by PFRS 5. Okay, so medyo mahigpit under full PFRS. But for PFRS for SME, walang ganong classification. Therefore, if meron kang non-current assets na gusto mo talagang ibenta, okay, example, meron kang property, plant, and equipment or meron kang investment property na gustong ibenta, hindi siya makaklassify under non-current assets held for sale kasi wala namang ganong classification under PFRS for SME. So, ang gusto lang sabihin nito, stay as is ka na investment property or property, plant, and equipment, and then normal, pag nabenta, ang gagawin mo lang is you debit cash, and then you debit accumulated depreciation, and then you credit property, plant, and equipment. Okay, mga ganun lang. Kung investment property naman, so walang depreciation, debit cash, credit investment property. So, ganun lang ang treatment under PFRS for SME. Alright? Next. Okay. Non-disclosure of operating segment information and earnings per share. Okay. Itong disclosure ng operating segment at saka earnings per share ay ginagawa normally sa mga publicly listed entities o yung mga kumpanyang malalaki na nakikita mo dun sa Philippine Stock Exchange at nagbebenta ng stock sa market or sa public. Alright. So, bakit may operating segment? Kasi masyado silang malaki. Okay, segmented ang kanilang operation. Kumbaga, may mga branches, may mga satellite, etc. Okay, and then, nire-require din sila na mag-present ng earnings per share, ng EPS, okay, na inilalagay sa baba ng income statement or kung saan mang part ng financial statements dahil kailangan makita ng mga investors magkano ang kanilang earnings per share na hold nila. Okay, kaya nire-require under full PFRS that you disclose this operating information and earnings per share. Sabi dito, under PFRS 8 and PAS 33, listed entities or those that the process of enlisting their securities for the purpose of trading in the stock market. So, listed entities daw at yung mga nagpaplano na magpalista sa Philippine Stock Exchange ay mag-disclose na ng segment information in their notes. So, sa notes sa financial statements daw at saka earnings per share on the statement of comprehensive income. Ayan, respectively. So, kailangan daw ipakita. But, for PFRS for SME, for simplification purposes, anong sabi dito? Since the PFRS for SMEs does not apply the listed entities, kasi nga, kapag ini-apply mo to sa listed entity, hindi na siya pwedeng mag-qualify under PFRS for SME. So, yun yung logic nun. Okay? So, the PFRS for SME does not require disclosure of segment information or EPS. Alright, entities making such disclosure shall describe the basis for preparing and presenting the information. Alright, so hindi ka daw required under PFRS for SME. Magawa ito kasi kailangan mong ipakita ang information details ng operation ng segment. Ay madami yun. Kaya pinag-aralan natin yan dun sa segment reporting nung nag-aral tayo ng CFAS. I don't know kung na-discuss ko to doon, but of course, i-discuss pa rin natin yan as review ngayong Intermediate Accounting 3. Alright, anong kasunod? Interim Financial Reporting. Na-discuss na rin natin to sa conceptual framework. Okay? Di ba kapag you are preparing an interim financial report, pwede yung quarterly, pwedeng semi-annual, pwede ring monthly. Okay. Under PAS 34, pwede ka kasing mag-prepare ng dalawa. Full or complete financial statements o yung tinatawag na condensed financial statements. Pag sinabi mong condensed, yung mga importante ang kailangan makita doon. Okay? So, sabi dito, PAS 34, Interim Financial Reporting provides guidance, okay, in preparing condensed FS. So, may guidance ka pala kapag condensed FS ang gagawin mo at hindi complete set ng financial statements. But under PFRS for SME, walang ganong provision. Okay? Bakit? Kasi, bakit pa magkakaroon ng guidance ng another standard sa pagpe-prepare ng condensed FS ay simpleng-simple na nga ang FS mo kung ikaw ay SME lang. Okay, so I think that's the logic. Right? Classification ng financial instruments. So, under full PFRS, so dalawa yung sinusunod natin dyan eh. The PAS 39 at saka PFRS 9. Okay? Before, review tayo, ang classification ng financial instruments, okay, ay financial assets at saka financial liabilities. Under financial assets, meron tayong tinatawag na apat yon. Trading securities, available for sale securities, held to maturity investments, at saka yung mga loans receivable. Okay, apat yun nung una. Ngayon, ginawa na lang siyang dalawa ngayon. At ano yun? Financial instrument at fair value at saka financial instrument at amortized cost on the basis to both 1. Entity's business model or 2. Kung may contractual cash flow characteristics of the financial instruments. Okay, kailangan mong i-review ulit yun ha, yung PFRS 9. Okay, yung letter A na fair value, dalawa yan. Fair value through profit or loss at saka fair value through OCI. Yung fair value through profit or loss, yun yung bagong term para sa trading securities. Okay? At saka yung OCI naman, fair value at OCI, yun naman yung dating, yun yung tawag ngayon sa available for sale securities. Pareho pa rin ng purpose. Okay? Yung tinatawag naman na amortized cost, normally, before, ang old term sa kanya ay held to maturity investment. Dun sa term niya na held to maturity, hinahawakan mo daw siya until mag-mature. At normally, yung mga investment na held to maturity ay mga bonds. Kasi ang bonds, may contractual period na at least 5 to 10 years. Okay, long term. So, di ba, kailan lang binabayaran ang principal? Normally, at the end of the contractual period. At saka gumagawa ka ng amortization because of the payment of interest. Okay? So, yun yung review natin under PFRS 9. Okay? But for PFRS for SME, dalawang classification. Basic at saka non-basic. Okay? So, basic financial instrument refer to non-complex financial instrument. Anong ibig sabihin ng non-complex? Ito yung mga investment na lang halimbawa sa equity or investment lang sa debt instrument. So, yun lang yung tinatawag na basic. Pag sinabi mo kasing mga complex or mga non-basic, I guess it includes already the derivatives. Okay? So, medyo komplikado kasi talaga ang derivatives kasi meron yan ng mga future options, mga cash flow hedge, etc. etc. Okay? So, sabi dito, basic financial instruments are subsequently measured using an amortized cost model, except for those that are publicly traded or whose fair value can otherwise be measured reliably without the due cost and effort which are measured under fair value through profit or loss. So, yung basic talaga ay amortized cost model lang ang ginagamit. Okay? Pero kung meron kang investment sa may fair value, okay, at fair value, pwede mong i-measure at fair value through profit or loss. Pero, hindi ka magkakaroon ng investment na fair value through OCI. Binanggit na yan kanina. Okay, kaya nga, under PFRS for SME, hindi kompleto yung RAFA. Okay, RFAH lang ang makikita mo. Alright? So, next. Classification of financial instruments. So, parang nabanggit na rin to kanina. So, under full PFRS, entities are permitted to classify equity securities that do not qualify as held for trading, okay, to be measured at fair value OCI. So, kung hindi ka daw through profit or loss, punta ka sa OCI. Entities are permitted to designate financial assets through profit or loss by doing accounting mismatch through profit or loss if doing so eliminates accounting mismatch. So, pwede yun. Pero pagdating sa SME, yung mga non-basic financial instrument, lahat daw siya ay subsequently measured only for FBPL. Okay? Except kung hindi mo ma-determine ang fair value, saan mo daw siya i-classify? Cost-less impairment. Okay? Ganun lang ha. Cost-less impairment. Ano pa? OCI classification is not permitted under SME o wala daw available for sale securities doon. And then, PFRS for SME does not include the option to designate financial asset at FBTPL. Okay. Class, bakit pa ulit-ulit kong binabanggit yung word na trading securities at saka available for sale securities? May bago ng term ngayon. Baka kasi sa board exam, gamitin pa rin yung term. Pareho pa rin kasi siya ng purpose. So, baka malay mo, ma-encounter mo siya under any financial accounting and reporting or ma-encounter mo siya under advanced financial accounting and reporting or ma-encounter mo siya sa auditing, lalo na sa auditing problems. So, baka magtaka ka, ano kaya yun? Kaya pa ulit-ulit ko pa rin binabanggit. Okay? Kasi baka magamit pa rin yung old term na yun. Alright? Next. Investment in associate. Let us review. Okay? Anong standard na nag-govern kapag full PFRS? Hindi mahirap tandaan. Associate 28. Okay? PAS 28. Ano nga ang investment associate? If you have an investment that is more than 20% up to 50%, okay, of one corporation. So, kung halimbawa ako, si Corporation B A, meron akong investment kay Corporation B up to 50%, meron akong tinatawag na investment in associate. Associate ko siya. Okay? At dahil associate ko siya, number one, meron akong significant influence in decision making of that company, of that Corporation B. So, meron akong significant influence. At the same time, dahil meron akong 50% investment, okay, ay di may 50% akong share sa income ni Corporation B. Okay, kung ako si Corporation A, may 50% akong income or share sa income ni Corporation B. If ito nag-increase ng 50%, tawag na doon investment in subsidiary. Yun na yung may tinatawag na parent and subsidiary relationship which the parent has the control. Okay, but of course, hindi naman yun ang pinag-uusapan natin. Okay, under PAS 28, kung i-review mo yung investment in associate, you are required to use the equity method. At ano nga yung equity method? Okay, di ba pag bumili ka ng investment in associate, you debit investment in associate, you credit cash. Okay, pag nagkaroon ka ng share ng income, parang ganun yan, hindi ko masyadong maalala. Okay, or kapag nagbayad ng dividend, okay, si associate mo, ang equity method ay ang treatment parang bumabalik yung iyong investment. So, nakikredit ang investment in associate every time na nakaka-receive ka ng dividend. Parang liquidating ang dating. Okay? So, yun yung equity method. Alright. So, paano naman kung halimbawa ako si Corporation A ay may investment kay Corporation B na associate ko. So, associate ko si Corporation B ha. Si Corporation C naman ay subsidiary ko. Kung si Corporation C ay subsidiary ko, okay, ako ay parent ni subsidiary ni Corporation C. At dahil ako ay parent, required ako na mag-prepare ng dalawang financial statements. Yung isa, separate financial statements at yung isa, consolidated financial statements. Okay. Dahil magpe-prepare ako ng separate financial statements, mag-a-appear doon yung investment ko kay subsidiary at the same time mag-a-appear doon ang investment ko kay associate. Okay? Si Corporation B at saka si Corporation C ay mag-a-appear sa aking FS, sa separate FS ko. Under PAS 27. Okay. Investment in associate are accounted for in the separate financial statements either, pwede akong mamili, okay, at cost, or equity method, or in accordance with PFRS 9, example ay fair value. So, dun sa separate FS ko, okay, si associate doon ay pwedeng gamitin ko at cost, pwedeng equity method, pwedeng in accordance with PFRS 9. Pero dahil gagawa pa ako ng isang FS which is the consolidated financial statements, required ako na gamitin talaga ay equity method. Okay? Ngayon, kung wala naman akong subsidiary at normal lang na meron akong investment in associate, under dun sa FS ko, hindi separate FS ang tawag ha, kasi ang term na separate FS ay ginagamit lang kapag ikaw ay nagpe-prepare ng consolidated. Okay? Pero kung wala ka namang subsidiary, normal na FS lang ang gagawin mo, yung standalone. So, ano ang magiging treatment ko kapag standalone FS lang? Ano ang magiging treatment ko kay associate? Equity method ang gagamitin. Pero kung ako ay may subsidiary at the same time merong associate, dalawang FS ang ipe-prepare ko. Sa separate FS, may choice ako. Either letter A, letter B, or letter C. Pero under consolidated, equity method lang din ang talaga ang gagamitin. Okay? So, imagine mo, masalimuot, di ba? Under full PFRS, ang daming choice. Samantalang under PFRS for SME at meron kang investment in associate, ito lang tatlong model lang yung pamimilian. Either ang pipiliin mo ay cost model, or equity method, or fair value model. Okay, hindi ka nire-require under PFRS for SME na, huy, equity method yan. Hindi. Meron kang choice. Okay? Hindi katulad ng full PFRS, talagang required ka equity method. Pero, nagkakaroon ka ng choice if you are preparing a separate financial statements under PAS 27. Okay, hope na intindihan niyo yung part na yan ha. Alright? So, kailangan talaga i-review mo yung full PFRS na nag-govern ng investment dahil isa sa mga masalimuot na account ay yung investment dahil napakadami niya. Okay? Sa financial instrument pa lang, yung classification, ang dami na. So, what more yung may investment in subsidiary ka pa, investment in associate ka pa, investment in normal debt securities or normal equity instruments. So, meron mga ganun. Okay? Ano pa? Okay, implicit goodwill on acquisition. Okay. Anong sinasabing acquisition? Ikaw daw ay nag-acquire ng isang company. Si Corporation A ay nag-acquire ng isang company, si Corporation B. Yung presyo ni Corporation B ay nakabase sa kanyang net assets. At ano yung net assets? Kung magkano yung value ng kanyang equity after deduction of all the liabilities. Yun yung kanyang price. Ngayon, pag binayaran mo siya ng mas malaki kaysa sa price niya, okay, halimbawa, the Corporation B ay binibili mo, ina-acquire mo. Ang true price niya talaga, ang net asset value niya is 100 million. And then, nagbayad ka ng 150 million. Okay? So, magkano ang difference? 50M. The 50 million, ang tinatawag nating goodwill. Okay? Goodwill yon. So, sabi dito, under PAS 28, goodwill relating to associate is included in the carrying amount of the investment. There is no separate accounting required for the implicit goodwill. Wala daw nakahiwalay. So, kung magkano yung binayaran mo, binili mo siya, yun yung value niya na talaga ng investment kung magkano ang binayaran mo sa kanya. Kung binayaran mo siya ng 150M, 150M ang magiging value. Neither amortization nor separate impairment testing of the goodwill is permitted. Okay? Hindi ka ina-allow na amortize or magkaroon ng separate impairment. Itetest mo daw for impairment yung goodwill. Review nga tayo. Anong ibig sabihin ng impairment? Ang ibig sabihin ng impairment, kapag yung nakalibro mong assets ay mas mataas kaysa kung magkano na lang siya sa market. Ibig sabihin, masyadong malaki ang nakalibro sa'yo. For conservatism principle or purposes, kailangan i-reduce mo siya. Okay? Pababain. The difference is what you call impairment. Alright. But, dahil nga hindi naman separate ang goodwill under full PFRS, wala kang gagawing impairment testing. Okay? But for PFRS for SME, sabi dito, under PFRS for SME, the excess of acquisition of the investment in associate over the investor's interest in the net fair value, okay, shall be recognized as goodwill and shall be amortized over the estimated useful life. So, kita mo, magkabaliktaran, ano? Dito sa full PFRS, hindi isineseparate ang goodwill. Okay? Walang ganun. Samantalang under PFRS for SME, isa-separate mo ang goodwill, tapos i-amortize mo siya over estimated useful life. Ang goodwill kasi, parang pangalan niya ng kumpanya, yung binabayaran mo, yung brand name. Okay? So, pinepresyuhan. At ang example nga nito, bakit mahal ang Lacoste, bakit mahal ang mga Louis Vuitton? Because of the name, because of the goodwill. Yung reputation, yun. Okay? So, if the useful life cannot be established reliably, the life shall be determined based on the management best estimate but shall not exceed 10 years. Alam mo kasi, under PFRS for SME, okay, yung mga intangible assets, lahat sila may finite life. O ibig sabihin, may buhay lang na magkakaroon ka ng benefit doon. Hindi katulad doon sa full PFRS, merong mga intangible assets na indefinite ang life. Ibig sabihin, hindi mo ma-determine kung hanggang kailan siya magbibigay sa iyo ng benefit. At saka meron namang mga may mga finite lang. Okay? Yung may mga period lang talaga, katulad ng franchise, katulad ng patent, may mga buhay lang talaga yan. But, under PFRS for SME, sabi nga, lahat may buhay. Okay? And, kung hindi mo nga ma-determine yung useful life, sabi dito, kung ano yung ma-determine ng management, basta hindi malalampas ng 10 taon. So, ganun yung amortization, or ganun yung amortization na gagawin mo. Shall not exceed 10 years. Alright? So, ano pa? Different reporting periods. So, under PAS 28, the difference between the end of the reporting period of the associate and the art of investor shall not exceed 3 months. Dito naman sa kabila, walang ganong provision. Alright, agriculture. Agriculture, PAS 41. So, under agriculture, naandyan yung tinatawag na biological assets at saka agricultural produce. Okay, napag-aralan natin yan. Ngayon, nagkaroon kasi ng amendment ang PAS 41. Sabi niya, yung mga bearer plants, so nagbigay siya ng listahan ng mga plants na namumunga, yung mga bearer plants, shall not be classified under biological asset, so i-exclude mo daw siya, at siya yung magiging part ng PPE under PAS 16, yung mga bearer plants. Kasi, kaya ang logic dyan, bakit kinlassify as PPE? Kasi pinakikinabangan mo yung mga bearer plants. Pinagkakakitaan mo siya. Yung mga bearer plants na namumunga at yung bunga nila ay binebenta mo, so parang pinagkakakitaan mo yung mga halaman. So, 'di ba? Parang opisina 'yan eh, o parang isang building na ginagamit mo for operation. Kung wala ka ng building na gagamitin for operation, wala kang kita. So, kung wala kang bearer plants, wala kang kikitain dahil wala namang mamumunga. Okay? At saka, parang katulad nung nabanggit ko sa inyo, ano ang treatment dun sa mga sea creatures or animals na naandun sa Manila Ocean Park, 'di ba? Hindi siya tinreat as biological asset but it was treated as property, plant and equipment under PAS 16. Bakit? Kasi pinakikinabangan mo siya for operation purposes. At kung wala nun, wala kang economic benefits na makukuha. Okay? So, yun yung treatment under full PFRS. Pero alam mo, under PFRS for SME, walang ganong treatment. Okay? Walang sineseparate ang bearer plan. So, I think, under PFRS for SME, yung mga bearer plans is still classified under biological assets. Alright? Ano pa? Pagdating sa measurement ng PAS 41, sabi dito, biological assets are measured at fair value less cost to sell. Ano yung fair value less cost to sell? Kung magkano mo siya mabibili sa market, less yung mga gastos mo sa pagbebenta sa kanya. Okay? Yung mga pinuhunan mo. Okay? There is a rebuttable presumption that the fair value can be measured reliably for biological asset only when the presumption is rebutted on initial recognition that an entity is permitted to measure cost less accumulated depreciation. Okay, di ba? Fair value less cost to sell ang ginagamit under PAS 41. Pero kung impossible or impractical na hindi ma-determine ang pinapagamit sa iyo, cost less depreciation or less accumulated impairment losses. Okay? But for PFRS for SME, okay, You should measure biological asset at initial recognition, ano daw? Fair value less cost to sell, only when FV is readily determinable without the cost or effort, or without undue cost or effort. Okay? A biological asset whose fair value is not readily determinable ay pwede ka daw gumamit ng cost less any accumulated depreciation and accumulated impairment. Okay? So, dito sa full PFRS, ang priority talaga, fair value less cost to sell. Dito sa PFRS for SME, yes, initial reporting fair value less cost to sell, as long as kaya mong i-determine. Okay? Yung fair value without undue cost, ibig sabihin, hindi ka daw masyadong magagastusan at saka hindi full effort or talagang mapapagod ka na the benefit or the cost already exceeded the benefit. Okay? So, yun yung gusto niyang ipaliwanag. Alright, ano pa? Ayan, yung sinasabi natin kanina, intangible assets and other than goodwill. So, kanina, diniscuss natin ang goodwill, which is an intangible asset. Okay, under full PFRS, di ba, meron tayong R&D, Research and Development Costs. So, meron tayong research phase at saka development phase. Okay, automatic, under full PFRS, ang treatment natin sa research costs ay expense. Okay? Pero ang development cost, pwede siyang mag-qualify as capitalizable expenditure. Anong ibig sabihin ng capitalized expenditure? Halimbawa, ako ay nagdi-discover ng isang equipment. Okay? And then, of course, nagkakaroon ako ng research and then development. Ngayon, kung nag-materialize yung equipment, at of course, meron akong developmental cost na ginamit, at nag-qualify siya sa mga criteria under PAS 38. Okay. Pwede kong gawing part ng value ng equipment ko yon, yung developmental cost. So, may pagkakataon ang developmental cost, sabi dito, however, developmental cost may be capitalized as intangible asset if a certain conditions are met. Okay? Sorry, hindi pala PPE yung aking kine-create. Isa siyang intangible asset. Okay? Na gumastos ako ng research cost at saka developmental cost. Okay, so pwede ko daw i-capitalize yung developmental cost. But under PFRS for SME, para hindi mahirap, expense outright lahat yun. R&D, pareho. Okay? PFRS for SME does not provide conditions for the capitalization of development cost. So, isa to sa mga main difference. Okay? Kaya nga dapat alam mo, pagdating sa problem solving, ano ba pinag-uusapan nating company? Ito ba ay SME o yung gumagamit ng full PFRS? Kasi kapag full PFRS, ang developmental cost may pagkakataong pwedeng capitalize. Pero sa SME, walang pagkakataong i-capitalize siya. Expense outright ang treatment. Okay, amortization of intangible assets. Okay, under PFRS or under PAS 38, only intangible assets with finite useful life are amortized. Okay, ano ibig sabihin ng finite useful life? May buhay. Okay, may buhay, ibig sabihin yung panahon na pakikinabangan mo lang siya. Katulad nga ng franchise, katulad ng patent, katulad ng mga copyright. Okay, pero kung siya ay may indefinite useful life, hindi mo ma-determine kung hanggang kailan magbibigay sa iyo ng benefit, hindi ka required na siya ay i-amortize. Pero, itatest mo siya for impairment at least annually. Ganon ha, pag full PFRS. Pero under PFRS for SME, anong sabi dito? All intangible assets should be considered to have finite useful life. So, walang indefinite. Lahat may finite useful life. The useful life of intangible assets shall not exceed its legal life. Okay, kasi may mga intangible assets na meron talagang legal life lang. Katulad ng patent, ilang years lang ang patent. Katulad ng franchise, katulad ng franchise, patent, yung mga ganon. Okay? As long as hindi mag-exceed dun sa useful life. So, sabi dito, if the useful life of intangible asset cannot be established reliably, the life shall be determined based on the management best estimate but shall not exceed 10 years. Katulad din nung sa goodwill kanina. Okay? So, hindi ma-determine, Bahala ang management. Judgment ng management yon, but wag lalampas sa 10 taon. Alright, so that's for the amortization of intangible assets. Annual review of depreciation or amortization method at saka useful and residual life. Kasi di ba yan ay under full PFRS nire-review. Baka kasi maging subject to revision. Kasi nga, estimate lang ang useful life, estimated lang ang residual value, estimated lang din yung mga anek-anek na ganyan. Okay, so sabi dito, PAS 16 and 38 requires an entity to review at least each financial year end or at least annually yung method na ginagamit mo. Baka kasi gamit ka ng halimbawa ng straight line method, ang kailangan mo pala ay double declining method or declining method pala. Okay? Tapos, yung useful life mo, inassess mo pagkatagal-tagal, hindi naman pala. Okay? And then yung residual value, okay? Baka pala mababa na or baka wala na palang residual value. So, under full PFRS, okay, kailangan mo daw i-review if there are changes. Under PFRS for SME, an entity shall review the depreciation intangible only if there are indicators that had been changes since the most recent annual reporting date. I-review mo lang kapag merong indicator na magbabago talaga significantly yung kanyang amount. Pero dito sa full PFRS, required ka at least annually na i-review. Okay? At least at each financial year end. So, kita mo, under PFRS for SME, kung wala man lang indicator o hindi ka required na mag-review ng mga yan. Okay? Samantalang full PFRS, required ka every year. Okay, accounting for goodwill, parang na-discuss na natin kanina. So, amortization of goodwill arising from business combination. So, business combination nga, nag-combine ng dalawang corporation, may acquisition ng corporation. Under PAS 36, impairment of asset, goodwill arising from business shall not be amortized but rather tested for impairment at least annually. Okay? Hindi i-amortize ang goodwill, pero siya ay itetest for impairment. Baka kasi mas mababa yung value niya sa market kaysa dun sa nakalibro sa'yo. Okay? Pero under PFRS for SME, after initial recognition mo daw ng goodwill, the acquirer, yung bumili, shall measure a goodwill acquired in a business combination at cost less accumulated amortization and accumulated impairment loss. Nabanggit na natin kanina, 'di ba? Ang goodwill ay isa sa mga intangible asset. Okay? At ang intangible asset ay dinedetermine na merong may finite life lang siya. Okay? So, kung may finite life lang siya, kailangan mo siyang i-amortize. At saka, i-test for impairment. Oh, ayan, ito na yun. Okay? It is the useful life, if the useful life cannot be established reliably, then the life can be determined based on the management best estimate shall not exceed again 10 years. So, under full PFRS, walang ginagawang amortization pero tinetest at least annually for impairment. But dito, okay, cost less accumulated amortization. So, ibig sabihin, ina-amortize siya na hindi mag-e-exceed ng 10 years ang useful life. Okay? Classification and recognition of government grants. So, pinag-aralan din natin yan sa Intermediate Accounting 1. Okay, under PAS 20. Okay, government grants are classified as either grants related to asset or grants related to income. So, ganun yung classification. Under PAS 20, the government grant is recognized in income over the periods necessary to match with the related cost. So, may matching daw ng income at saka cost for which it is intended to compensate on a systematic basis. If the costs for which the grant received is intended to compensate have already been incurred, the government grant is recognized in income at grant recognition date. So, ganun yung treatment. Okay. Under SME, walang classification na siya ba ay grant related to asset or grants related to income. Walang ganun. So, the PFRS for SME does not provide such classification. Wala daw ganun. Under PFRS for SME, government grants are recognized as follows. So, paano inire-record ang government grant? Letter A. A grant does not impose specified future performance condition on the recipient, is recognized in income when the grant proceeds are receivable. Okay? Wala daw impose specified future performance condition. P. A grant does not impose specified future performance conditions on the recipient, is recognized in income only when the performance or conditions are met. And then grants received before the revenue recognition are established, recognition criteria are satisfied or recognized as liability. So, ganun yung pag-recognize, ganito yung mga criteria pag-recognize ng PFRS for SME. Samantalang under full PFRS, may classification muna and then may matching ng income and expense, etc. etc. So, if you want to be familiar with the full PFRS treatment, you go to PAS 20 or you go back to your intermediate accounting 1 discussion. Okay, pagdating sa measurement ng government grants, so sabi dito under PAS 20. Alright. Government grants or monetary grants are measured at kung magkano na-receive mo, or B, fair value of the amounts of receivable, ibig sabihin marireceive mo pa lang, or C, carrying amount of the loan payable to the government for which repayment is forgiven, or D, discount on loan payable to government at the below market rate interest, while non-monetary grants, okay, halimbawa binigyan ka ng lupa, okay, are measured at fair value non-monetary assets received, or alternatively, ito, medyo masaba na, etc. etc. So, under PFRS for SME, pinasimplify, okay, under SME, government grants are measured at fair value of the asset received or receivable. No alternative measurement basis is provided under SME. Oh, simple ha, fair value lang. Wala ka ng ibang alternative measurement. Hindi katulad sa PAS 20 ng full PFRS. Okay, malapit na tayong matapos. O again, ito na naman. Borrowing costs. Okay, ano nga ba ang borrowing cost? Let us review the borrowing cost under PAS 23. Ang borrowing cost ay ang gastos mo sa pangungutang dahil ikaw ay gagawa ng isang asset, yung tinatawag nating qualifying asset. Ang qualifying asset are assets that takes time para mabuo or magawa. Okay? On a non-repetitive basis. Okay? At saka hindi in large amount of volume. Ngayon, kapag ang borrowing cost kasi ay pwede mag-arise sa tatlong classification. Kung maaalala mo, yung general borrowings, yung specific borrowings, at saka combination ng general and specific borrowings. So, kung gusto mong malaman yung details nun, balikan mo yung discussion natin ng PAS 23 na discuss na natin yan. Okay? Pero sabi dito, ang very important dito, ang borrowing cost daw, sabi dito, under full PFRS, borrowing costs that are directly attributable to the acquisition of construction or production of a qualifying asset form part of the cost of the asset. Other borrowing costs are recognized as expense. So, yung magiging part daw siya or magiging capitalized expenditure or pwedeng i-capitalize. Okay? Yung borrowing cost na yun na directly kinamit. Okay? Sa pag-build ng qualifying asset. Samantalang under PFRS for SME, walang kahirap-hirap. Lahat ng borrowing cost o yung tinatawag na interest expense outright. Okay, hindi i-capitalize. Alright, so, let's go to 22, value in use computation. Okay, so dito under full PFRS, PAS 36, impairment of asset. When computing for the value in use, cash flow projection shall cover a maximum of 5 years. Okay, ibig sabihin kasi ng value in use, okay, nagpo-project ka ng magiging cash flow for the next years. So, sa case ito, maximum of 5 years lang para ma-determine mo yung value in use niya. Value in use, yung panahon na merong silbi. Okay? Unless longer period can be justified daw. Okay? Cash flow projection beyond 5-year limit shall be extrapolated. Okay? And then, under PFRS for SME, does not state specific time limit before extrapolation is required. So, walang limit. Under PFRS for SME, the entity may wish to extrapolate cash flow projections beyond the period covered by the most recent budget or forecast. Extrapolation kasi ginagamit ito sa pag-determine ng present value. Okay? Yung ginagamit na effective interest rate. Yun yung extrapolation na sinasabi. Alright? So, dito, walang specific time. Under full PFRS, meron. Alright, isa sa mga hindi natin napadaanan talaga itong PAS 19 employee benefit. So, pag may time pa tayo ngayong intermediate accounting 3, i-discuss ko to. Isa sa mga pinakamasalimuot na topic itong employee benefits. But of course, mas pinadali na ito as compared dun sa time namin. Okay? May pinadaling treatment dito. But of course, let us look at the difference. Under PAS 19 employee benefits. Okay. The obligations under defined contribution plan are measured at undiscounted basis except when they do not fall wholly within 12 months after the end of the period in which the employees render related service, in which case are discounted. Ito kasing tinatawag na defined contribution plan. Dalawa kasi yan defined contribution plan at saka defined benefit plan. Okay? Defined contribution plan kasi, 'di ba? Yung ating mga employee ay gusto nila pagka tapos ng kanilang retirement, meron silang matatanggap. Okay? So, pag defined contribution plan, nagko-contribute kasi ang employee at saka ang employer. So, defined benefit plan, ganun. Okay? So, merong mga undiscounted at saka discounted portion. Dito naman sa PFRS for SME, under defined contribution plan need not be discounted. So, dito sa full PFRS, pwede siyang i-discount. Dito sa SME, hindi na siya nare-require na i-discount. Kasi kapag ikaw ay magdi-discount, you have to prepare a computation of the present value. Kaya kailangan mo i-discount. You have to determine the present value, okay, of the contribution na ginawa ng employee and employer. Okay? Measurement of defined benefit liability. PAS 19 requires the use of projected unit credit method when measuring its obligation on the defined benefit plan. Under PFRS, the projected unit credit shall only be used if the entity will able to do so without undue cost or effort. So, nire-require ka under PAS 19 or full PFRS, projected unit credit method. Pero under PFRS for SME, okay, gagamitin mo lang if hindi ka masyadong magagastusan or walang effort na mangyayari. Okay? Kasi, yung projected unit credit method, lalo na kung maraming ang empleyado mo, i-require ka na kumuha ng actuary. Okay? Yung actuary na yun, sila yung nagde-determine kung magkano talaga yung benefit na makukuha ng mga employee. Of course, sa part mo, expense and liability yun. Okay? Kaya pinapadetermine mo, kumukuha ka ng expert. Okay? Kaya nga doon nag-a-arise yung actuarial gains and losses. Yan. Yun yung tinatawag. Ang ginagamit nilang method ay projected unit credit method. Okay? Puro mathematics kasi yan eh. So, dadating na lang sa iyo yung figure pag kumuha ka ng actuary. Alright? So, don't worry. I-discuss natin yan sa ngayong Intermediate Accounting 3. Okay? Hindi natin napasadahan before under IA2. Events after the reporting period. Okay? So, declaration of dividends after the reporting period. Okay? Review tayo sa reporting period natin. Ang events after the reporting period ay, ang ihalimbawa na lang natin ay calendar period, December 31. So, pwede daw, di ba, na ang events under the reporting period are those events that happened after the reporting period, which is December 31, but before the approval and issuance of the financial statements. Okay? So, paano daw pag nagkaroon ng declaration ng dividend after December 31? Doon sa example natin. So under full PFRS, dividends declared after the reporting period but before the financial statements are authorized for issue are not recognized but disclosed only. Okay? So, dahil nangyari talaga ang declaration after December 31, okay, ang tawag doon non-adjusting event. At pag non